today we have three wonderful panelists. Two of them are from academia and one from the industry. Let's see, I'm going to do it in the alphabetical order. Dr. Joanne Healy, can I have you please join me in the stage here while I'm introducing you. Dr. Healy developed a special education master's degree and related certification programs. I'm going to go to the next slide so you can see their name as well. Developed related certification programs at the University of Alaska Fairbanks after 21 years as a special educator. She is a faculty advisor for the CEC student chapter, a board member for undergraduate research and scholarly activity, and SOE-wide council for the accreditation of educator preparation committee. Dr. Healy acquired 2 humanoid robots through the Provost Technology and Education grant. So it's going to be exciting to hear about those experiences. Please join me in welcome Dr. Healy to our panel. And then the next person is Dr. Gunce Malan-Rush. I would like to invite Dr. Malan-Rush to the stage. Gunce is special to me. I'm going to go off script here in a second because Gunce actually was my first master's student here at USF Sarasota Manatee. When I joined in 2010, I asked Gunce, recruited her from Turkey. She's from Antalya, but she was studying in Istanbul, and then she came, she finished her master's with us. As usual, we sent her to Dr. James Way, to College of Education in Tampa, in Tampa campus, and she actually finished her PhD, but she didn't go into regular normal route that normal PhDs do. She actually went to the industry. Gunce has been working in higher education since 2011. She has been teaching as an adjunct faculty also at the University of Tampa in their instructional design and technology master's program. She is currently working at BISC as an associate program manager, working directly with the University of South Florida and Notre Dame universities. She has developed over 50 online courses for the BISC clients, NEC, Villanova, MSU, Florida Tech, White Label, USF, and Notre Dame, as we have mentioned. So please join me welcome Gunce to the panel. Last but not least, I would like to invite Dr. Sanghoon Park. Please come and join me in the stage here. Dr. Park has also served in many different art students' dissertation committees. Just lastly, actually, Muhittin's dissertation committee, which I co-chair with Dr. James. Dr. Park currently teaches graduate courses in the current trend of instructional technology at the University of South Florida. And he's also teaching interactive media and motivational design in learning technology. His teaching goals are to create an optimal learning environment and provide students with excellent teaching and advising. Also, please join me welcoming Dr. Park to the panel. So the way that we are going to do this is I will start with some questions, and then of course we will take a lot of questions from there. So I think the panel is wonderful, especially after Dr. Holberg's introductory remarks. Before I start asking them a question, and do we have microphones for everybody? Right here. Yeah, okay. So we need some more microphones somewhere. Maybe it's over there. Yeah, that should be there. Okay, so you know that we had an Education 2030 think tank here, right? That was on Tuesday. Anybody who have joined that? I know some of you were here. Perfect, that's wonderful. These are my favorite people. It was wonderful, the whole day think tank. And throughout this think tank, and I will also show that to you as well too, we are also doing concurrently a global Delphi study. This Delphi study is a survey, qualitative survey. As you all know, Delphi first starts with qualitative. You get a lot of information. And actually, 6 a.m. this morning, our researchers finished coding them. So the second stage of Delphi, don't worry, she's in Romania. So 6 a.m. was like midnight for her. So don't feel too bad. We are not working them to death, our assistants. But 2 assistants have been coding this data. And then we come up with top 10 trends from this global Delphi study, which then this list is going to go back to the people, and then they will ask them to rank. Then we're going to have it. So I think as a setting stage for this panel, here are the top 10 results that came as of this morning. Number 1 is online learning. Number 2 is technology. Of course, online learning and technology, you can combine them, right? That will make it even stronger. Number 3 is diversity awareness. By the way, this is not technology trends only. This is education 2030 trends. What's going to happen in 10, 20 years in education? Internationalization was number 4. Virtual reality was number 5. Digital literacy was number 6. Artificial intelligence was number 7. Adaptive technology was number 8. Adaptive technology changes the level depending upon the consumer, the user. And number 9 is flipped classes. And number 10 is flexible learning. So when you look at this list, and I would like to start the panel by asking my panelists, maybe we'll start with you, Dr. Healy. And can you please just introduce us? I introduced you, but can you please tell a little bit more about yourself and why you are a good fit for this panel, please?
Okay. Dr. Holbrook talked first about the preschool students working with coding robots. And in 2016, I went to the ISTE conference, and I noticed the same thing. And I said, wow, we need to step up our game in our teacher prep programs. And so I took away some books in my program and required robots in my classes for teachers to learn how to introduce them, teach the students how to drive them, and teach the students how to code them. And it was really interesting because I work K-12, and I actually had some students in the preschool and some students in the post-high school program. And they all were able to use the robots in their classes successfully, and the students were making gains and were engaged and enjoying it. So I got tremendous feedback from that. And all my courses are online as well. And they've all gone through Quality Matters reviews. So my students are begrudgingly going forward into technology. In Alaska, most of our classes, a lot of our students are in rural Alaska, where they have to join classes from remote areas. So technology is a huge part of our education system in Alaska.
Wonderful, thank you. And I would like to remind all of panelists, please bring it to the close because we are live on Facebook. We will also maybe get some questions from Facebook. On top of that, ABC, right? ABC is here as well, so you may be on TV tonight, so who knows. So please speak. Thank you so much, Dr. Healy. Dr. Rush, now Malan-Rush, I should say, right? We'll go with you. Please introduce yourself quickly and then also why you're a good fit for this panel.
Thank you very much. I work for a company where we actually help the institutions with their online program management. And what we do is we take from the conception of the courses, we create their courses, we work with their faculty, we help them with the marketing of the courses, the programs, and then we also take them through the entire student life cycle. So we offer different services for each of our clients, as I mentioned, from marketing of the programs to actually going and finding those students who will be students in those programs and then taking through the student support. And what we do is we take majority of our clients through a journey of how do we convert their face-to-face classes and put them in online. And this journey sometimes is easy for some of them, sometimes it's very hard because we work with the faculty members who has been doing the same thing for the last 30 years. And sometimes it's a lot of negotiation to convince them to try something new, or sometimes they have their own ideas, so we just make it happen.
Wonderful, thank you. Dr. Park, last but not least. I think it's on, yeah.
Good. If you're a big fan of the Game of Thrones, you will remember this famous saying, the winter is coming, right? And I would say the same thing, technology is coming. It will be coming today, it will be coming next year. After 10 years, still, the new technology will be coming. My name is Sam Park, and actually I just got the email from my department chair saying that my tenure has been approved. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I've been in the field of instruction technology for about 22 years, including my PhD program, and has been a wonderful journey because I've been working on online course design, I've been working in the augmented reality and online course experience analysis, and recently I received the Nexus grant from the provost at University of South Florida in Tampa, and the project was about virtual teaching simulation and developing culturally diverse virtual simulation scenarios. So I know that all of our audience in here, you all use technology in some way or another, and you know the technology. So I think I'm here because based upon my experience as been serving as a faculty for about the last 20 years.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to all of you. And I would like to also ask you another question. You looked at these trends, right? So artificial intelligence, I am surprised there is no robots here. That's kind of surprising to me. Maybe it's 11, we don't know, but I'll definitely look it up. So online learning, technology, artificial intelligence, and of course we are talking about, at least in our think tank, we talked about robots in education as assisting teachers or replacing teachers. So here's my question to you. In the next 10, 20 years, do you believe that there is no need for us, when I say us, the educators, do you think that our jobs are going to be replaced? What are your thoughts about it, in no particular order? Whoever would like to take it, please.
We're safe. Education is all about relationships, and even when I do work with robots with students, the relationship is with me and the student. So robots and online learning, we all have a computer on our phone, we have access to a lot of information, but really using that information and being able to use that information and help other people understand the information, those relationships that you build with people are still primary in education.
Thank you. Gunce, how about you?
I would like to start by saying, so I think it was 2 days ago in your 2030 think tank, there was a discussion about the difference between transformational and transactional learning.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I'm going to bring it back.
Wonderful.
So I'm a strong believer that with robots, with machines, it's all about transaction, but only the human contact can bring back that transformation. So it's really hard, even through our online learning, it's really hard to see the difference between our students, and it's really hard to see how they grow through robots versus if you were to observe your students. So I don't think we're going to lose our jobs. I don't think our jobs are going away. But I do believe that what we do will change.
So Dr. Park, in Turkey we have a saying that cutting your own branch, the one that you're sitting. Do you think that you are cutting your own branch? Are you eliminating your job in the future? What do you think?
Well, before I answer to the question, I would like to ask our audience, how many of you are educators teaching this K-12 or higher education? Most of you are. How many of you have children who is still in school? So, if somebody asks you, come to you and ask you, would you want to be replaced by robots? How many of you say yes? If somebody asks you, would you like your children to be taught by the robots? How many of you say yes, right? So I think it depends upon our will. I think we are all involved in the process. Whether robots will replace teachers or not, that's the decision that cannot be just made by ourselves, by some one person. It should be influenced by the political issues, economical issues, cultural issues, and we all are just stakeholders. If we want to make the change to happen in the future, there will. If we don't want to see that happen, it will not, right? And that's my answer, kind of initial answer for the question. And I personally believe that robots will not replace us as an educator because of two reasons. The first reason is that the robots at this time, because we're thinking about robots in 10 and 20 years later, not 100 or 20, 200 years later.
Yep.
They'll be different. So after 10 or 20 years, robots, they'll be designed based upon some kind of algorithm, right? But still, they'll be presenting the information, not the instruction. So you can get a lot of high level of information from the robots, and it can help teachers and students learn better. However, robots will not be able to provide any type of instruction. So you have to see the difference between the information and the instruction. That's kind of the key. The second reason I don't think the robots will replace educators is because robots are not yet ready to be adaptable when providing the lessons. So for example, if I'm having trouble understanding some kind of the physics concept, right? And the teacher has the ability to adjust the level of difficulties by addressing different questions, providing more examples and the cases. Robots will be dependent on the algorithm still, but I don't think robots are ready to be in that high level of presenting information and to be a true instructor.
Perfect. Okay, wonderful. I'll come to you after this question and think about the questions that you may want to ask to the panel. So you are teaching online courses, you said, and Dr. Park, are you teaching online courses? Okay, perfect. So this course question was mainly for Gunce, but I will ask the whole panel. So Gunce is designing online curriculum as part of her job in the basics, so which is wonderful. And for Notre Dame, USF, right, many others, among many others. So I would like to ask her first, and then I will also would like to ask you as well. What are the trends in online courses, online curriculum designing, in your opinion? And do you believe that online education, again, back to that question, but online education will be actually replacing not the teachers, but face-to-face education? Okay, so that's a different question. We'll start with you.
Okay. Well, so let me talk about the trends first. So I'm actually going to divide this into two pieces. So in the first part, I want to talk about the technology trends. So what we're seeing, what's changing, and what we're investing as a company as well. The first thing I want to mention is, so one of the trends you listed, it was adaptive technology.
Yep, adaptive technology.
Okay, so we have something called adaptive learning, and this is actually being achieved through different learning management systems, where we actually create a database of knowledge, information, and instruction, and depending on each learner, the questions will change, the instruction will change as the students go through different modules. So this is becoming a huge trend. Well, the only downside is it takes so much more time to develop one course versus when we make it adaptive learning, it's like a combination of 10 different courses because we're looking for the hardest content, medium content, and then the easiest content. It's a combination of one course, but you can enroll any student in it because it's online. Then the other trend, the mobile application of these learning management systems. So Canvas is taking over right now because, as you know, in the mobile platform, so they offer for iOS and Android right now, both for the student and the teacher perspective. So I can, as a teacher, I can actually grade my students' paper from my cell phone. Same thing, students can post discussion board. They can even do it by using online Microsoft Office. They can submit their assignments from their cell phone. So this is where we're going with the online learning, and this is a technology that we're actually providing, and majority of our students, online students, are working professionals, so they're looking for that their pace, their time, anytime kind of learning. And another trend we're seeing is it's actually the relevancy. So I'm going to move on from technology to the relevancy of the information. So because we're working with closely, especially in online, with working professionals, they're looking for that relevancy of that information. They want to know as soon as they graduate what they can do, how they can improve their life. So they're looking for their return on their investment, not only for their education, but also for their personal growth. So they're looking for, well, if I get this degree, can I be a manager in 2 years? So that's another thing. And then the fourth thing I will mention, so we're using this media player called Kaltura, and it offers electronic transcript. So a couple years ago, we used to do PDF documents as just to cover our ADA checklist. We used to provide PDF of a Word document providing the exact verbiage from our videos. Now the technology itself is providing all the verbiage, and it's electronic. Students can print it, download it, and they have a copy of it. And now, even though we have a supporting company who's actually working and providing the transcript, but it's live, and it's just authenticated immediately, and it's available.
Wonderful, great, wow. I want to know that last software that I want to know, because I actually got an email just recently. I'm teaching an online course, and I have a lot of videos, and they were not transcribed. And then I have a student who is hearing challenged, and then they helped me. They were very good, helped me, but I would love to do it by myself, you know, to make it prepared. So thank you. How about you? The trends in online, as you see it, and are they going to replace face-to-face education, in your opinion? Dr. Park, we'll start with you.
That's a tough question. I would say that it would depend upon the time of the schooling and the content of the lesson. So for example, if we are at the K-12 level, elementary and secondary education, I don't think the online courses will replace face-to-face. The reason for that is because they are learning something different from the higher education or the training at the industry. When you up to the higher education, like university level or the industry training level, what are required and what the learners want to know and learn is the skills and knowledge that they can actually use into job positions, right? So there's a difference between the training and the education. If we are focusing on training aspects, online learning will be more and more in the field. However, if you're focusing on the education for young children, I don't think online courses will replace the classroom learning.
Thank you. Joanne, how about you?
Well, when we talk about online learning, we have to talk about quality online learning. And when we think back 20 years ago in Alaska, we were mailing books and packets, and students were mailing them back to us. And now we're able to engage online. We don't use Canvas, but we do use Kaltura and Blackboard. And we are able to, one thing that's really important in all my classes is that I build a cohort with my students. So I use tools like a Padlet where they can have just a conversation on a board. I use VoiceThread so that they can talk to each other, present what their reflection is, and then talk to each other. And the first time I used VoiceThread, it was very endearing because they were very formal and they were a little nervous because I said you have to use the webcam. And so I got a lot of black screens or bright lights, so you couldn't see anyone. I'd say re-record, and so they finally got their first thing done. And then they had to respond to 2 people, and they were very formal with that too. The second module, they had to do that. Hey, John, I really liked what you did. That was super. And then they started having these conversations and talking to each other in a more informal cohort manner. So I think you have to have the student keep coming back to the online format. All of my classes are blended learning, so I do meet with them at key points in the course to make sure they're on the right track, and I engage with them. We meet on Blackboard, webcams on. We have to see each other, and if you don't have a webcam, talk with OIT and get one. So that face-to-face, that relationship building is important online as well as face-to-face classes.
Wonderful, thank you. Now I have still more questions, but I would like to open it up to see if there's any questions from the audience. If there is, raise your hand, so I will bring the microphone to you.
As a teacher educator, one of the issues that we have seen in our university is students who are very averse to teaching or to learning online. And then I'm also thinking about the methods classes that require realia, bringing in materials, and how do you engage with those online?
Please go ahead.
I require those things as well on my online classes. If they cannot bring them in, they create a YouTube video and show the realia. They also have to use different assistive technologies in one of my classes, and they have to demonstrate that they can use the assistive technology and how they would use it. So they are sharing with the group throughout the course. And they can respond on discussion boards as well to the videos. So I do have interaction, and I do require in all of my classes, except for the special ed law class, that they go into the classroom. and they share their stories. So when we do meet in the blended atmosphere, I say, man, I've been reading some great journals. I want you all to share. And so they start sharing what they've been seeing in the classroom, and that, of course, builds that cohort again. And then they start talking to each other when we don't have class.
Anybody else want to take it?
Well, so a couple of our clients actually have something called live sessions. So even though the courses are supposed to be 100% online, we actually require students to be present in front of a camera to meet with the entire class once a week. So some of them are 60 minutes, some of them are a little bit longer. So we still give the experience of being in that classroom environment where they get to meet each other, talk to each other, and everybody's present at the same time. So that's another way of bringing them together. And then we're a strong believer of group assignments. So we actually purposefully pick the groups from when we set up their learning management systems. So they actually have to talk to somebody else in the class before they can actually finish that class. So that also pushes them to go through peer learning, just like if they were in the classroom. And then we offer, so majority of our assignments, because they are online, so we offer alternatives. So the topic is the same, but you don't have to do it just like anybody else. You can always create alternatives. So that's another way of creating that interaction.
Dr. Park?
Well, I don't teach teacher preparation courses online because my background is instructional design and technology. Yet, the way that I try to utilize in my online courses to increase student engagement is to, one of the courses I developed was about the current trends in instructional technology. And I worked with the Innovative Education, which is the instructional design team, and the campus of Tampa USF campus. And we come up with this idea of gamification. So when our students go through the course module, at the end of each module, they got some kind of rewards. It's not the money, but still they got some rewards. And they can help them feel more satisfaction after they finish up each module. And the course was quite successful, and then I conducted a study comparing when we implemented learning from the gamification-infused online courses.
Interesting. I want to open up questions, but you have a question. Let's take your question, then I will ask.
I'm wondering what you are talking about as it relates to synchronous engagement of students, and I think you were talking about it, but I'm wondering how that happens. Where's the video camera? Who's managing that? And what programs do you see emerging to help students engage synchronously during the class?
Great question.
I think that
Please.
question is for me. So we have actually, our different clients are using different softwares, but majority we work with a software called Zoom. It's a meeting, just like GoToMeeting. So there is no limit of students. When we create the accounts, they can have as many students, as many participants as possible, and they all join. So they can actually draw on each other's screen if they have a screen share capability. They can ask themselves through chat questions, and the live sessions that we require for some of our clients, they must have a camera. So it's basically, even though some students, in the classroom, there are only a couple of people who will talk to you or ask questions, and the rest will just stay there, right? So the purpose of the live session is kind of prevent that, because everybody has to be present. And then majority of our live sessions, they have a structure in terms of, so they have questions that they get before they start the session, and then they know what they need to talk about, and they come prepared. So it's a little bit different than a classroom environment, because when you lecture, not everybody's prepared. They don't read the chapters. They don't come with the questions to you. But when we make these live sessions announced a week before, they are a little bit more engaged in a way that they know that's the only time they can ask questions and get their answer immediately. Because when it's online, you're waiting for an email answer, right? But then you get the teacher in front of you once a week to ask any question you have, and then just clarify everything you have.
Do you want to add anything to that synchronous?
With my class, sometimes if I want a response, because it's a graduate course, there's enough that we can go through all of them. I have them raise their hand, and I say, we're not gonna start this discussion until everyone has their hand raised. And so we have that discussion, and it really makes that interactive more important than a face-to-face class, because you can always read body language and you know when someone is, you don't want to embarrass anyone. And so the students know that they have to come up with something. And we're on camera, so every time we talk, we're on camera.
Because they can actually even sleep on the back, right? Because
Yeah,
you don't really see them. So when you ask them really, because it can happen. I mean, we've all been on webinars. Sometimes it's on one screen, on the other screen we are answering emails, not sleeping, but you're doing something else.
Yeah, when I hear the dishes being done, when I first started teaching online, I thought, you know, that's a lot of extra noise, and you really need to be paying attention to the course and your peers.
Good way. How about you, Dr. Park?
What I believe about online learning is it should be flexible enough in terms of time and the place. So the way I design my online class, especially my current trend in instructional technology, that's a graduate level course. So at the end of the semester, students will have the option whether they want to present synchronously, asynchronously. If they choose to have the asynchronous presentation, we have in the Canvas, that's a learning management system we use, there's a menu, it's called Blackboard Collaborate. Some of them have a Blackboard still there.
Collaborate.
Yeah, Collaborate. So we can set up the time and the date for the synchronous presentation. And what students do is that they share their presentation and the paper, because that's the final term paper, earlier than the conference day. So we call that as like a conference, mini conference. And on the conference day, students come together to the designated online synchronous setting, and then they can present each other. They can share their ideas. They can make some suggestions or recommendations about the practices that each participant is doing. So that's how I manage synchronous component of online course.
Wonderful. I'll tell you a quick story. I was a dean, and one day I received an email, and somebody from Ghana, "Dear Dean," I guess that's how he's writing because it was in all capital. "I want to complain about your students. You have bad students. Very bad. Very bad. We agreed on $500 for the assignment. I got $250 in the beginning. I did the assignment. You gave the student A on that assignment, but he didn't pay me the other $250. What kind of ethics are you teaching in your school?" True story. Seriously. So this student actually hired somebody from Ghana to do the assignment for him and paid the $250. I mean, what kind of intelligence is there that you pay the first $250 and then don't have the $250? And then the student has done the assignment for him and submitted. The student has submitted to the professor. I was not teaching that class, but it was in my college actually. And then didn't give the second payment after the assignment is done. And then I called the student into the room, and I'll ask you about this also, the cheating in online environments, because we start to see it more and more. As a matter of fact, if you just Google, you will be able to find a lot of companies or people who are taking the entire online course for you. You just give them their username and password. They guarantee you, if you want A, it's $2,000. If you want B, it's like this much, $1,000. So, and then I called the student, and the student claimed that his ex-girlfriend sent an email. It was not somebody from Ghana. Then I have said to him that, then this is criminal, so we have to call the police and report about your girlfriend because this is very serious. When I said the word police, he says, no, I did pay him, and I didn't pay him. I said, I'm just curious, why did you not pay the second half? I mean, because if he did, I guess we would have never understood, right? If this didn't, he didn't know. Obviously, he failed the class, and he had to do it again, and it was on the, referred to the whole judicial process of the university. So, to the panel, what do you guys do? Gunce, when you design the courses, how do you control this? Because, right, if somebody has a username and password, unless you do the, face-to-face or this video recording that you're asking, you can't really tell if that's authentic to student or not.
So for our paper assignments, we use a software actually, it comes from our school system. It's called Turnitin. So it looks for plagiarism check. It looks for any similarity in their writing style for the student submission, and then the assignments that has turned on. We ask the students, don't put your name, don't put any personal information, just submit the title of the paper, whatever you're putting, and then your homework. And then we also have ProctorU for our online quizzes. So these are coming from our clients too. So it's actually an online proctoring system. So school pays per student, where they actually have to have their camera on, their browser is locked down, and then somebody's watching them while they're taking the exam. But obviously, the assignments are much more than just paper and the exams and the quizzes. So when it comes to discussion boards, if you give your just password and username to somebody else, anybody can do it, right? So we encourage our clients that let's put more than a discussion board in your course where we can actually check who's doing the assignment, right? Because there is no other way. And then we also encourage them to have live sessions, or they're getting for their higher education, so it's a little bit different.
Okay, how about you?
Alaska is the biggest state with the smallest community, and we know them.
Wonderful. Dr. Park, how about you? Do you have any techniques that you use?
Well, I basically use the Turnitin system because that's the pleasure check software that's embedded into the campus. So for their final term paper or midterm paper, I compare their paper against the Turnitin system, and usually the similarity index higher than 20%, 30% I just return, and then ask them to return. However, since most of my students are all over the graduate level students, I try to have them the inspiration about the learning actually, because getting the credit is important, but it's not all about the graduate school. So they need to understand the value of the education they are getting from the course and how they can improve themselves based upon the content and knowledge that they're learning from the course. So for that, the motivation becomes a really important issue, and I try to design my course based upon several different motivation design the processes. The first one is the ARS model. So there's an ARS is an acronym of the attention, relevance, competence, satisfaction. So based upon those 4 different components of motivation and design, I try to design my course based upon those principles. And that's from the outside, instructional design component. And from the inside, that's important. As a graduate students, they need to be willing to spend their time to read and respond and participate in the discussion and complete their assignments. So from the internal side, I also try to share the motivation regulation strategies they can utilize while they are taking the courses. So that has been working well, and as Healy mentioned, it's very important to know your students first, and then build a kind of the trustful relationship with them.
I want to just continue. I'm going to take your question, but I want to ask very quickly to Joanne about the robots. She has used 2 humanoid robots in her classes. Tell us, how is that?
The robots are amazing, and I use them mostly with students who experience autism spectrum disorders. And what we found in 2 of the studies that I've done is that the robot is such a fascinating tool that the students are captivated by it. And we looked at joint attention of a student with one of my undergraduate researchers, and it was like 97% the first out of the box on the first day. And then as the sessions continued, the dialogue and the relationship, because the student was controlling the robot, transferred over to the facilitator or the student. And so it was just a little tool. Technology is a tool that helps us be more effective. And that created a bond where that student, a little 8-year-old, was comfortable as a student with autism to walk up to a stranger and a child that they didn't know and tell them about the robot experience and encourage them to come to one of our open houses. So I share the robots with all my students in my classes, mostly my autism classes, but twice a year we do a technology community open house, and we open it up to the public and to the universe.
Who developed those robots? Is it a company or?
Yeah, the Aldebaran robot created the Now robot, which is similar to the Pepper robot, which is used pretty effectively in Japan for working with Alzheimer's patients and the elderly. And then Milo is developed by Robokind, which is down in Texas, and he's there's a female robot now, and
Male and female.
a male and Caucasian, darker skin
Oh, wow.
robots. So
Interesting.
they're trying to be culturally sensitive, and they have programmed social skills within the robot. So you can take the students through, when I first started with them, there was maybe 6 or 7 lessons, and now they're up to like almost 70 lessons.
Wow, interesting. Do you remember how much the cost was for?
The costs are going down, I believe. When I first, because I was in on the beginning with the robots and my work with the Autism Society, knowing the CEO was helpful, and I got the robot for $6,000. The other robot, the
Wow.
Algebra robot, was about $10,000.
Wow.
They are expensive. They are tools.
Yeah, interesting. You know, in terms of being expensive, that we in the think tank we talked about actually in Finland that the one school system is using robots to teach language. So they were talking over that the cost of the robot is 8,000 euros, which is about $9,000. Speaks 26 languages. Doesn't have a girlfriend, boyfriend. Doesn't have an emotional breakdown. Doesn't need to have a break or have any lunch break, and works 24/7. And all you need is to put a little bit oil and a little power. I'm kidding. That one is my addition there. But so the fact of the matter is that robots are obviously going to be very useful, and they were saying that the kids love robots in language education because they don't feel embarrassed to ask the same question. One person can get it in one time, how to pronunciate a word, for example, in Spanish, English, whatever it is. But if robots doesn't judge, right? Because sometimes I guess teachers or even peers can judge the other ones, like, are you stupid? Why do you ask the same question 5 times? They can ask the same question 100 times if they wanted to, until they learn. So it's very, very interesting. I would love to talk to you after the panel also too, because I would love to test try them in my teaching as well too. So any questions from the audience? Here we go. We have about 10 minutes.
Probably this is more of a statement than a question, but you talked about Turnitin and any of the plagiarism. Well, I don't know if you all realize this, but there are companies out there that will guarantee paper will have no, almost no 0% plagiarism, even though, because this happened to me, a student turned in a paper and
It's plagiarized.
it was plagiarized, but it came up 2% on Turnitin. But 2 of my students found the original paper. They predicted it was a male in the 1990s that had done this, and it was.
And the way that they do it, they replace the spaces with white colored dots. So the plagiarism software would never find, even though it's an identical use of another something. It's very easy. I can teach you. It's good to know. Seriously. It's good to know. Because you want to catch them, right? So do you have any comments about that?
Unfortunately, I'm catching that.
You are catching them.
I found a way to catch them.
My previous institution, when I taught in different universities before I was relocated to USF, I had a conversation with my dean back then, and she was asking me, Sam, we have a serious problem. I think some of our students are actually copying from each other. It was online class. And I said, well, if they do, it's not about the online course. They will do it, whether they're face-to-face or online. And there's no way that we will know if they copied from each other or not, unless we actually look into that. So after the conversation, I realized that I'm not sure about the undergraduate level, but for the graduate level, it is extremely important for us to let them know it's about the learning, it's about getting a credit. I think I'm just repeating the same thing I said before. So the plagiarism or the checking system, like Turnitin, our checking system, yeah, there will be like the level of the minimum level of the protection we can do. The higher level, we have to let our graduate students understand that what you have to put your effort in writing this paper. That's how you learn. And in a way to get to that point, it's important for us to, as an educator, we need to motivate them. We need to let them know that they can be engaged in a meaningful way when they work on their project. So it's about the assignment again. What kind of meaningful assignment you can create? What kind of activities that we can provide for our students?
Yeah. How about you? Do you? Yeah.
So I teach at the University of Tampa, and I work with graduate students. And one of my students actually tried to submit a paper that was submitted a couple of years ago. So I just wanted to have a conversation with my student, asking what was the reason that he didn't want to do the assignment. And he told me that the assignment wasn't relevant to his current job, and he didn't want to spend the time. And then so I tried to understand. So I said, like, so did you type this paper again? Because it was different font, different style written, but I remember the information from a couple years ago. And then he said, I really didn't have time to do it, but all I wanted to do was just to submit something. So he actually grabbed one of his couple of years ago, the graduate who graduated a couple of years ago. He grabbed the paper, he read it, and he summarized it. But the information was so similar, so our LMS flagged it as 65%. So when I was having a conversation with him, then I realized, I said, okay, so if the assignment wasn't relevant, but he still put the effort to retype it, make it shorter, and it wasn't 100%, it was 65%. And then I asked myself, I said, so what did you learn? I said, so we're having a face-to-face conversation. I said, if you can summarize what you put in that paper to me, I will give you the grade. And then he explained it to me, he told me exactly what he put in the paper. Instead of him writing it, he read it from somebody else, so he technically cheated, right? But he learned. So my takeoff from that was, well, if he's gonna learn by cheating, by reading somebody else's paper and making it his own, I'm okay with that. Because at the end of the day, my purpose is I wanted him to come up with a story. He decided to take somebody else's story and make it his own. So he learned.
I'm curious about what Facebook audience is going to say about this. Students. I'm also watching online if there's any questions. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, when I work with students on a paper, one of the parts of that is to share it with a peer and to get feedback from that peer. And so it becomes a writing process within, because I'm always teaching. We're working with special ed teachers that are going forward, and these are the skills that they need to work with their students. So they're practicing the skills they would use with their own students on peer editing and working together.
Wonderful. Okay, we're almost out of time. Is there any burning question, quick question, before we finish the panel?
All right, given all that, what is the difference between learning from each other and collaboration, which is the way of the world today? Are we still stuck in individual performance, individual assignments? How should we be thinking about that in this modern age of collaboration?
With special ed teachers have to collaborate all the time. I want to build that skill into all my courses. They need to learn from each other. They have to have these intervention meetings, learn how the student is performing in this class, and what's happening in the third class, and why are they being successful. They have to learn from each other. So I think learning from each other and collaborating with each other is really important skill for my students.
Anybody else want to add?
Well, I look at collaboration as 50-50 effort, where both parties have something to offer, but I look at learning from each other as something that one of the parties has a little bit more to offer, so it becomes more of a transformation. So collaboration for me is a little bit more transactional, but learning by peer learning is more about transformation, because you bring the other person, if not to the same level, but very close to yourself.
I don't necessarily, it's just my personal opinion, I don't necessarily think that the learning from each other and the collaboration are two different things, but I do think there are two different levels. So for example, we are here all together, we are learning from each other by sharing our research malpractices, right? So when we learn each other, we thought about, oh yeah, that's what I missed, that's what I should thought about. If you stop there, that's learning from each other. But if you go a step forward and have some kind of collaborative work, like writing a research paper together and preparing for the conference presentation for the next year in this conference, global conference, I'm sorry. So if you go one step forward, move on to the next level, that becomes a collaboration. So I think all the learning from each other thing is great, but it has to end up being the collaborative efforts from all the attendees.
Wonderful.